Hey everybody, welcome to AJS News. This is the first of two videos we got for you today.
But first, a word from our sponsors.
Hey guys, I refuse to close all of my tabs when I'm gaming and when I'm playing, and I've switched to Opera GX, and it has run so much more smoother because it is better customized for it. It has so many features for gamers. Look at this, a release calendar. Here's Star Wars Dark Forces is coming out. It'll show you some demos that you can play, the games that are currently free right now, deals aggregator on big name games, but here is why you should use it. Check this out.
Yeah, there's a CPU limiter, there's the RAM limiter. If you're going to have all of these things open, you can make sure that it's not impacting your video gaming. And it also has integrated Discord, integrated Twitter,
boom,
integrated ChatGPT. Like
bam!
OJ likes asking ChatGPT weird
questions.
questions.
Like you could ask it best recipe for salmon in your dishwasher.
I just added ChatGPT now, and that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard you say.
So?
Please do not cook salmon in your dishwasher. Instead, download Opera GX, the browser for gamers, and it supports directly our channel. It's completely free to you. Download using our link down below, and I hope you guys enjoy the video.
Thank you guys so much. Click the links down below. Alex, let us know a lot actually in AJS news. There's just been so much stuff coming out. People have asked about Shogun. I would like to do a review for Shogun, so we're going to watch that. Jay had told me that it's like amazing. He absolutely loves it. There's only 4 episodes, and there's only 2 out right now. So we're going to try to do a review for that for you guys, and we're just continuing to work on the next videos here. So buckle up. Alex, what the hell has been going on in gaming news?
It's good eating time if you're a Souls-like fan like myself, and there's a lot of them coming out. There was an Italian Souls-like that was really excited. It's just a smaller one, and it had set a day. It's called Inotria: The Last Song, and its release date was set for June 21st. And then FromSoft said, guess when Shadow of the Erdtree is coming out? And then they're like,
no, we didn't mean this time.
Yeah, so
we're gonna switch it up.
Is what they said is they said they dropped their suicidal June release date because they realized that you just can't compete with that. It's it's a DLC for Game of the Year. People are really, really excited about this one. So if you were excited about that game, it's gonna get pushed, and we'll keep you updated on when all that stuff gets pushed around. But
smart move.
It's hard for these.
It is a smart move. You have to be aware of what's coming out. And, a lot of Slytherin games, some of the AA, developers and publishers we've worked with in the past, I see them doing dumb things, releasing games in the middle of, like,
it's going to get buried.
AAA, it's going to get buried, and then they're like, well, why didn't this succeed? It's like, well, but no. Okay.
Well, speaking of companies that didn't do that, we talked a little bit about Immortals of Avium. It's a AAA game. It's made by a small studio, but they had a AAA budget. This was their first opportunity to make a new IP. EA gave them a ton and marketed a ton. And honestly, in my opinion, I just don't think the game was very good. Now, the CEO has come out, and he wants to tell his side of the story. He's like, look, he says, quote, the failure of their debut game, what went wrong and why it's not over. And I wouldn't have pulled any attention to it, except for this is the guy that's talking about how he just refuses to acknowledge any faults in the game. And I think this is a huge issue for when I'm looking at a company and I'm going to look at their second release. So their first release, it was an average-ish shooter with a below-average story and below-average combat, and a lot of the things were just really, really boring. But he blames it on the release schedule. He says, look, the year that we released we were close enough to Baldur's Gate, we were close enough to Starfield, we were close enough to these other games, that's why people didn't like our game. And that there was a lot of 4 out of 10s and 10 out of 10s, and the people who gave it a 4 out of 10 must have not liked FPS shooters. And it's like, look, I want this guy as a CEO to acknowledge, it's like, look, maybe the writers that they had hired are just, they ain't it. Like, these are not the people to get a new IP and get people interested in it.
No, everything about that game was just generic. Nothing stood out, so it's not really memorable, and it's just, like, boring.
Yeah, it's
the writing doesn't matter initially, Alex, for your pre-order sales numbers, nor obviously the first week of sales. If it turns out that it was marketed generically and it doesn't look interesting to people, and it's a new IP that nobody knows about, and EA did a poor job of marketing it, at least in effective areas, If the writing is super strong, let's say it's just like a fascinating story, is great, word of mouth, like what's happening with the Shogun television series right now, word of mouth could spread, so you could see some uptick in sales after the fact, but not even that happened. So because the writing wasn't
the game just wasn't very good. Now, so what I wanted to see from a game, so people always ask, like, you guys are just, you know, they put at me a lot. They're like, you're so critical. What do you want to see? It's like, I want to see a CEO acknowledging the fact that maybe they missed the mark on some things. They want to tighten up their systems if they want to continue the story of Avium and this fucking vanilla, and I don't even mean like, I mean gas station vanilla, because vanilla is a delicious flavor, by the way. It's wonderful. But this terrible milquetoast plain motherfucker who was the protagonist that I didn't give a shit about under any circumstance.
Agreed.
If you're gonna bring this guy forward into another game,
What's his name?
I don't fuck.
What's his name, Joe?
Dave Franco's.
What? He kind of looks like Dave Franco. His name's hero protagonist.
I don't know.
You know,
protagonist of Immortals of Avium.
Yeah, and so like the name was bad. The character, it's just like, I need him to be like, look, we're gonna tighten up our writing. We're gonna make these systems feel good, not blame it on your release schedule. Which you know, it is your fault. I mean, unless EA specifically said it has to be this day. You can do like we did in this last story where they're like, shit, we're going to get clobbered by Baldur's Gate.
It still wouldn't have helped.
I don't think so either. I don't think so either.
But yeah, he's looking for something.
Yeah, he's looking for something. And, you know, if you want to check it out, it's massively on sale. Maybe you'll like it more than everyone else did, but it's not rated particularly high because, you know.
Dope.
Yeah. Back in 2013, there was a video game Kickstarter for a game called Camelot Unchained. Did you ever play Dark Age of Camelot?
Dark Age of Camelot. Was it an MMO?
It was an MMO.
I didn't play it, but I watched videos on it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun for a very short period of time. And so this was exciting for a lot of people. It's supposed to be a spiritual successor to Dark Age of Camelot.
What happened?
Well, a lot of bad stuff happened. If you know, we're talking about 2020.
I was going to say 2013.
But
10-year-old Camelot Unchained.
Yeah, so they've actually recently got some money from other investors who apparently have looked at the project and been like, "Hey, this actually has
something here
some
we can
merit."
save.
And it's expected to finally arrive sometime in 2025.
When?
Late 2025.
Okay.
Our engine, this is the reason I put this in there, is one, I actually...
Well, first, it's an MMO. We don't really hear much about this. This is kind of a dead genre, and I'm interested if we can find a good one. I think this is about what you're about to say, isn't it?
So
if we can find one, we got mass battles like we did with Elder Scrolls.
So this is what he said. A dream I've been obsessing over for more than 30 years. Our engine delivers massive battles similar to those seen in major Hollywood productions like Lord of the Rings, to video games where thousands of real players interact and share an epic experience in real time. That is a lofty fucking goal.
We want.
And so that would be very cool if that was the case.
And then we can get the angry army to go in and support it and play in it and do fun activities in it. You know, so I'm glad you're keeping an eye out for that, Alex. If anybody remembers the game, it was an extraction shooter. It was a really bad idea set in the winter, and they developed that technology where thousands of players could be there, but they didn't use it. It was like 3-on-3 teams, and then in the very end, they allowed 1,000 people just as an event when the servers were closing and everything was shutting down because the company went out of business. It's like you completely fucked up. What was the name of that game?
I don't remember which one you're talking about.
It's Scavengers. So, yeah, and it
was
like teams of threes where
you
you would fight over these ships that would fold up and fly off, but the teams would just sit there at the ship at the entrance and shoot it. And it broke my heart when that company announced, we developed all this technology to basically make PlanetSide 3, to basically make the Elder Scrolls Online mass battles, and we just didn't use it. We used it for a 3v3, you know, v3 extraction shooter. So it maybe Camelot Unchained can give us those 500 on 500 mass battles that I desire.
It's a long ways away. We're talking about at least 18 months away before we get anywhere close to that. But I'm not interested in MMOs, not the this is your job type thing. But if it's like,
this is gonna be a long shot though. If this thing was in development for 10 years and then it never came out, and then it needs another injection of money.
Yeah,
we will let y'all know. It is a long.
It worked with Skull and Bones, though. I mean, come on.
True.
It did not work with Skull.
That is a game.
That game came out.
That game is out, and it's vast.
And it's complete.
It's vast.
That's what the CEO said. It's
Forget
vast.
everything you know about
pirate,
pirate games.
and it's complete. I don't think that's true because I've gone through most of that game and it doesn't feel complete.
I mean, it is complete. It's just not very fun.
A complete piece of shit. I got him. All right. Saber Interactive is actually going to be buying itself back from Embracer. Embracer is one of the largest video game companies in the world. They kind of gobbled up as many companies as they could. They wanted to do this organic and inorganic growth to buy up all these IPs. They saw the future of gaming, and it was big and bright. And then they were actually looking for a really major purchase. They wanted to buy a $1 billion company. We never found out who it was, but that deal fell through. And because that deal fell through, their cash flow was all sorts of screwed up, and then they've really, they've closed some studios. They've laid off an absurd amount of people numerically. And we were worried about because they were, controlling a bunch of these other studios. And Saber Interactive is one of them. So it's the developer of Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. They were originally acquired back in 2020. So with some money from, let me see if they give me the names of the people who are helping them buy it back. I think it's just a private group is giving them some money so Saber can actually come back out and be its own company and call its own shots. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, anything getting out from under the thumb of, say EA or in this case Embracer Group, I could say was a net positive.
Mm-hmm. There's also, according to sources, Borderlands studio Gearbox is in the late stages of a sale, so Embracer Group is gonna sell Gearbox Studios. We've talked more about Gearbox because they're getting into more things, right? It's not just video games now.
The movie.
They're getting in movies. They're producing a lot of things. So, like, Gearbox is helping other companies put out their video games. So, we actually may have news sometime soon that Randy Pitchford is
back.
Is back, and we don't know who is changing hands.
It'd be smart to just shut up and never come back. Just be in the background and just keep to himself and not try to grab attention. But we know he's an attention-seeking person, so that's very likely.
Let's see. There was a quote from. They actually did reach out to Randy. And so Pitchford said a decision had been made regarding the studio's future with more information to be shared next month. So next month we'll know for sure. But it's looking like Gearbox is going to be able to go back out on their own, which again could be a good thing. It just depends on what they want to do. I think it almost feels like we're moving past the stages of like AAA games being, the monopoly of like successful AAA games being from these established studios, because there's so much of the studio bloat, and they're like, well, we've got 10,000 employees, and you honestly don't need anywhere near that many for some of these projects, and then they're putting out lackluster games with extra monetization put in there so that the studios can try to recoup some of those bloated costs, and then you've got smaller companies like Avalanche and Larian kicking the shit out of you both creatively and financially, and it's just. I don't know if we're going to have EA strategy continue to go forward.
They lost their heart. They don't have heart anymore.
Yeah. All of that stuff's going on.
Drive, passion, just like, all right, let's just throw something out there.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see where the industry goes. I'm hoping it's not all
live services,
live service and mobile, and I think we may have dodged the game NFT bullet. But
yeah, we could pat ourselves on the back for that, but we got to get past this live service bullshit. And most gamers are already doing that. They're playing games like, or at least good. We're stuck with Skull and Bones and fucking, Suicide Squad, and it sucks. And as you can tell, I'm super fucking tired because I'm just,
I can't wait to play
I'm
more.
Pushing myself, Skull and Bones.
We got to finish. I finished the game by Thursday. No. Because then we have to pay for another month of Ubisoft
I
Plus.
saw that on the calendar. I was like, we gotta cancel,
I got a
man.
reminder. It's like, you have 1 week. It's like, oh, no. It's like this horrible looming deadline. So
I don't want to give Ubisoft my money.
I knew that, too, because we're using Rocket Money, boy.
It's coming up.
It's like, hey, you need to cancel.
Rocket Money shows when our upcoming subscriptions are. We all saw it. We are going to cancel that one.
Yeah.
So. Would you consider,
it's just hopefully we can get it done before then.
Yeah, Helldivers live service.
It is
kind of.
Yeah.
Helldivers, that's why I didn't complete what I was going to say.
No,
Helldivers 2 is a live service game
like,
that's good, and we're playing once. And I don't know if it's Yeah, I would call that more roguelike, in my opinion, than live service.
Yeah, like it's on the
that
line.
game. He says we have to earn their Arrowhead's philosophy with live service is way different from Ubisoft's and from WB Games, and that's why it feels different. That's why it plays different. That's why everybody is enjoying it, and it is basically a complete experience. And it's a ton of fun. It's organic. It's just a little news story here I had about it is that, they're aware of all the little funny cinematic moments that can happen. They wanted to purposefully include that kind of stuff. And he even mentions tabletop RPGs and things that can happen. And you remember one time I used that spell and it blew up and we all died. It's like that's the kind of stuff that they've been going for, and so they're happy that it's
players
happening.
have their own fun. Yeah.
So, motherfucking that company's always been awesome. We hung out with them long ago, and they was doing the. They were all in those monk outfits, the different monks in different colors.
Oh,
Magicka,
yes.
and Magicka 2.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Arrowhead CEO is...
So it's really good to see they're doing good.
He said that he's like, look, our game is a live service game. And what he said is, we view ourselves as a live service game because it's unfair to say anything else. And that's true. But they're putting the content forward. It doesn't feel like they've pared away 50% of the game to drip out to you later on. And so people feel like they're getting their money's worth.
Oh, for sure.
Especially now that the servers are working. Still, I wanted to play at least 3 times where it was like, no. And so, there's nothing we can do about that now. But, they know what they're doing, and it feels, it feels much better than at least with Suicide Squad.
Oh, big time. Big time.
You had some small ones you wanted to throw in the
Yeah, little bitty ones. I got Greedfall 2, The Dying World, launching in early access. Players are going to have access to the entire beginning of the game, whatever that means. They're doing so it kind of looks like I never got to play all the way through Greedfall, and honestly, I'm so far behind. I thought Greedfall 2 was already out. It's not. It's coming, and I got a subtitle called The Dying World, and it's not an MMO. It's an RPG, and but they're gonna go and do something different. So they say it's certainly a much more ambitious game than the first one. And so early access seemed like the right path for us to take. We're relying heavily on early access to collect player feedback and see if we're heading in the right direction. So they're going to kind of take a Baldur's Gate 3 approach. And while that's inspiring, I think that's kind of inspiring in a bad way. I don't like the fact. I never liked the fact that Baldur's Gate 3 was in early access for so long, but it did help the development. Players did legitimately give them feedback, and they changed things for the better. Some companies don't. They don't listen to the feedback, or they think that you're wrong and they're right on this, and they don't listen to it. So it can be, a hit or miss, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Spiders, the developer, they've got a pretty good track record. They did a game called Steel Rising. I did a rapid fire for. Other than it being the easiest Souls game in the history of Souls game, it's pretty solid. They really fucked up the difficulty of that. I mean, massively.
Okay, well, it's going to come out apparently later on this year in early access, I believe. Double checking. It's available on Steam in early access later this year. Probably a quarter of the whole content of the game. So maybe one of these days I can go back and check out and see what Greedfall 1 was all about. Another story I got for y'all is Dune. Dune is hot. On Sunday, me, Jay, and Patrick, we played Dune Imperium Rising. It's a worker placement board game. Normally, worker placement's kind of boring.
It is because you're by yourself. You keep to yourself. Not really a lot of engagement.
Right, yeah, but this one has engagement where you're like taking a space from somebody else and they wanted to go and communicate with the Fremen and increase their influence with the Fremen. And then there's battles and then sandworms and stuff. And it was a really fun game. Maybe not fun to watch, but fun to play. I was the Harkonnen, and I said, I learned... By the way, Harkonnen.
Harkonnen, yeah.
Not Harkonnen.
I was waiting. I was waiting.
Harkonnen. And I was like, man, fuck this. I've seen the movies. We've learned our mistake. We are not going to think that the Fremen are rats. In fact, I made an alliance with the Fremen. So the Fremen and the Harkonnen put aside their differences and allied, and I won the game. I tied with Patrick, who was Muad'Dib. and I won by 1 point. Or actually, we tied, and I just had harvested more spice. So it was a real fun game. And but I bring up Dune because it's so hot right now. You got part 2 out. I highly recommend you go out and see it. I've seen it twice. I want to see it a third time in IMAX, probably over there at the Bob Bullock Theater, because that's a real IMAX, not the fake IMAX. Like they put IMAX on everything, and they're screaming. It's not IMAX. You gotta go to make sure it's a big ass screen. So the Dune video games, right now there's Dune Spice Wars, which is a 4X. I do recommend it if you like strategy games. 4Xs are big, expansive, and fun. That one's easy to get into. But the one that's coming up, it's a survival game. It's called Dune Awakening. So you remember how I was all excited about Terminator survival game?
Buck Terminator Pro Dune. Let's go.
Jurassic Park.
So Dune Awakening is called. No, I'm gonna say maybe.
Jurassic Park. Come on.
Maybe. No, that's. I like that. I like that idea. That's. Come on, that's Ark, but just with the license.
Jurassic Park is a franchise that has
Okay,
one and a half good movies.
I'm not talking about
We don't
Jurassic
care
World.
about that.
Jurassic Park, Jurassic World is different.
We don't care if the license is World or Park. It's just dinosaurs. I mean, that's Ark. Anyways, Dune Awakening devs had to get permission from Herbert's estate to change a tiny piece of Dune lore so that players wouldn't nuke each other constantly.
Yeah.
Now, I know Alex
That's the
knows
fun
this,
part.
but I want to see if Joe knows this. Why
talked
would
about
that happen?
96.
We talked
They
about
had
it.
96 nukes in that cave.
Why? Okay, yes, but that's not what they're talking about. What other thing could they be talking about?
I don't know.
We talked about it. in
Joe,
movie
I'm
review.
very disappointed with you in Dune lore. You need to go watch a bunch of lore videos and catch up on stuff. If you're
Done.
not going to read the books, go watch Quinn's ideas or some
Well, he
various.
scared me off
Okay,
with
look
the-
at this. What is that, Joe? Just say what that is. What does that look like to you? What is this thing here?
Oh, the
Yeah,
I
what
don't
is
know
this?
what they call it.
What is that?
Like a
That's-
laser.
Yes!
Okay, I was like, I thought you.
Speak
probably-
it.
I thought you talking about the
Say it.
lasers.
Yes!
Lasers. I thought you talking about the.
And what happens when a
harvester.
laser hits a shield?
Yes, we talked about that.
There you
Yes,
go.
I remember that.
So what happens when
With
a
the
laser
shield
hits a shield?
explosions?
It is an atomic
Yes, I
explosion,
remember
an
now. I
atomic
remember
bomb.
now.
So obviously, if you're making a survival game and you have las guns and you have knives and Chris knives and stuff, and you have shields, I mean, could you imagine if players just you give them a las gun, everybody's going to turn on their shields.
yeah, you
There's
just
going to be
go-
nuclear bombs going off all the time. So how did they? So they basically, because in the movie, the Harkonnen soldiers just refrained from turning their shields on for fear of being wiped out in one big blast. He's like, no shields. It's like, well, why is that? Well, because number one, the worms are attracted to the shields. That better be a part of the game. Dune Awakening. If you turn on your shield in the middle of the desert, there better be a worm on the way.
Explosions.
Anyways, so in our story, there's an incident with a las gun. Or wait, hold on. So the game's creative director, Joel Bylos, is also deeply committed to Dune lore. He got permission from the lore masters to carve out an in-universe exception. So let's see, what is the exception? If the exception, so before I read this, I was like, if he's like, nah, in our game, lasers can hit shields. It's just a different kind of laser. I'd be mad, right? Because that's not Dune. Would you accept it?
I already have to ignore the majority of the Dune lore to enjoy Dune. So this is something that I would be okay with.
Not me. You'll tell me which
I
ones in a
literally
little bit.
cannot say it on on this.
Oh, you're talking about the last 3 books that get horny. They're super horny.
Yeah, horny, and then worse than that. There's some horrible things
In
in
the
those.
last 3?
Yeah,
Or in the first 3?
Yeah, no.
See,
The
he
first
scared
3
me
are
off with
great.
this.
Yeah, I really want
Actually,
I really
think the
want
first
them to get to
4.
the first.
I think
the last
there's
3.
4 Dune books. Anything beyond that,
Because
No.
when Alex says that, I don't know,
That's not
Frank
even
Herbert must have just got horny one day and wrote the books. He's right.
and it's worse than I've described it.
I've
but I
dived
can't
deeper.
say it on this.
Okay, anyway, so he says, in our story, there's an incident with a las gun and a shield that occurred, and from that point on, all Chom, which is a company that controls a lot, it's like the East Indian Company, Chom, imported las guns to the planet, now have a safety built in, so that they cannot target a shield. So if you aim a las gun at a shield in our game, it just turns off the las gun automatically. I'm like, oh, that's a good. He doesn't actually betray the lore. So you probably don't even have to ask permission from that because.
Yeah.
But I guess they're serious. Like, okay, we will allow you to create safeties, which I guess they didn't think about.
This is Funcom. They did all the Conan Exiles, right? Like,
yeah,
so
they care about.
They care about the lore. They care about survival games. They constantly tweak things. They had some issues in Conan, but that game got good. Like, I have like 400 hours in Conan, and I'm really excited to see what they've learned from that one and bring over to this one.
Game?
That's yeah.
Okay.
So
we played it.
Yeah.
We played it.
So it's like that. That's why Dune is like the #1 of the survival games. And now that Nightingale, in my opinion, is a giant piece of shit.
Yeah.
Dune is the one I'm looking forward to because the other ones, they've showed stuff that I'm just kind of disappointed with.
Yeah, when we also did a trailer reaction for Terminator Survivors, that was my #1. But when I heard Terminator, then Awakening is.
But you got the
probably
other machines.
But there might still be hope.
Roombas with like steak knives like attached.
What's interesting is that this is Dune Awakening is also set in an alternate timeline, so they didn't need to do this. So that just shows you how committed they are to the lore. That even though it's an alternate timeline, they only say it's alternate because players are going to be murdering each other, whether they're friends or not. You know.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to be like, you shoot the laser, detects the shield, and it comes back to you.
And then hits your shield, and then another nuclear explosion. Anyways, that's basically something we had to do for gameplay because we can't have nuclear explosions. I mean, we could have nuclear explosions going off all the time, but it wouldn't be very fun for anybody except for the person who caused it. But I said, we discussed this. We went through it with our partners at Legendary and the Herbert's estate as well. Got their sign-off so we can do it this way. We had the prototype. It's kind of like Ghostbusters where if you cross the streams, everything gets unstable. The las gun starts to shake, and the two players explode in nuclear explosions. And we had it, but it just felt a little tacky, unfortunate. So
yeah, if OJ'd be walking on the top of his base, I would be on a mountainside. I'd hit him with a laser, and he would go off and blow up his entire base. And just, you can't have that because of trolls.
Yeah.
So.
I'm curious, man. That thing. So your cursor can detect, obviously, if you're aiming at somebody. But the second you move right here, you can fire your laser. Now, what happens when that laser moves past the player and then another player is walking and then his shield turns on and it hits it in the instant? Or because it's a video game, it can sense, it can do all those calculations. Okay,
it's one of those slow lasers that's
gonna
hit.
At the speed of light.
I'm going to test this out.
Yeah, well, anyways, so another Dune element that Awakening won't have is Fremen sandwalking, at least at launch, they said. The team at Funcom is still trying to figure out how to implement the feature without it looking ridiculous.
But that's the whole point.
It's supposed to look ridiculous. Yes. Please. I don't care if it's not fun to sandwalk. I don't care if it's like slowed for your character to go like this and you're moving all weird.
I don't care how stupid a guy looks walking like that in the desert.
People don't mind inconveniences in video games. They're playing motherfucking live service, grindy, shitty harvesting while you're in your boat with the mini game for hours on end. People can handle sandwalking if it's appropriate to the lore.
Well, they can also just make it an option, right? If you're a Fremen, you can sprint through the desert just like any other idiot, and there's a chance to attract a worm.
Yes.
Or you can, like crip walk through the desert. And
notice there's a part in Dune Part 2 where Chani is looking at Paul, and Paul's doing the sandwalking, and she's like, number one, you're doing it wrong, and number two, you're not even in worm territory. And she does this because it shows that there's no worms around because she knows where she's the native. And so they could just do that. You don't literally have to sandwalk on all the sand. Just worm territory. And then the game should tell you if you're in worm territory. But yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then, yeah. So that's pretty much it. Thank y'all so much for watching. Click those links down below. It supports us. It supports you guys. Thank you so much to our sponsors, and we will see you guys on the next Angry Joe Show. Bye, guys.